This is the first episode of Puns with Sons. I'm really glad that everyone is here today. So, because this is Puns with Sons, I'm the dad and I've got a son. Now, I'm not going to
It's
say if
me.
this is my son, but it is my son. So,
It's me.
it's really nice of you to join me today, son. So, as you can see, I'm in sunny somewhere. There's a palm tree, there's water, the cycle's repeating a little bit, as you can see. So, maybe it's live, maybe it isn't.
It looks
So,
great.
it does? Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. So considering this is the pilot episode, and I have to get so used to looking at cameras because I always feel like there are cameras all over me because usually when I walk out of a car, there's like at least 10 to 15 people taking my picture and I don't know where to look or turn. So I have to keep my eye on the camera. But then it gets weird because I want to look at the image of you here and then I see the camera. So I'm really not sure what works better, looking at you and then it's seeming a little bit off, but I guess it's okay. This is the kind of thing that I'm going to learn as I do these episodes. And this could be very well the first and the very last. I really don't know how this is going to go. Nobody really does. So you live in isolation. I understand that. I mean, basically you have no windows, no doors. And I mean, this is a kind of a military experiment. At least that's what I've heard, that they don't
Yeah,
let you out and you're kind of trapped inside. And this has been going on
exactly.
from what I understand, and please correct me. This has been going on for at least 2 years. That's what I've heard last. Is that
Yeah,
about right?
this is a pre-pandemic, nothing to do with the pandemic, totally
Right.
separate experiment.
Okay.
Me trapped in a windowless, doorless,
Right.
animal-less room.
Right. And that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
So basically you, from what I understand, you were asked to participate in this study and you initially refused, but they incentivized it by providing you an enormous amount of money. Of course, it was monopoly money, but you didn't know that until halfway into this. So about a year in, from what I heard, you understood that this was actually monopoly money, not legitimate US funds. Is that correct?
Yes. About halfway into it, couldn't pass go or anything, just straight up monopoly money.
Okay, okay. Yeah, and I remember reading about that. At first I was really intrigued by this and I was like, okay, this makes sense. You were stepping into this, no windows, no doors, knowing you were going to be locked up for a while. But I was saying to myself, again, you're my son, I think. I don't really know. Well, at least he's getting money for it. But when I found out it was monopoly money, I was like, the guy's been shammed. And I felt bad for you. But my understanding also is that there were timers on this module, whatever it was that you were put in. So it's not like halfway through you could change your mind. It was like you were
Right,
stuck until it's over.
exactly. So you
Okay.
step in and that's it. And it's really hard to step into a room with no doors, but I managed that part. But it's even harder to get out of a room with no doors. And once you're
Right.
in there, you're pretty much stuck.
Right.
So
So, okay. So, and folks, and by the way, I know this is called Puns with Sons, but eventually we'll get there. It's just the title. So just bear with us. So the other thing I understood, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it's about 300 square feet and no indoor plumbing. So no toilets, no sinks, no running
yeah,
water, no flushing toilets. I mean, it's basically a room,
yeah. The
no
worst
windows and
part,
doors.
the
Yeah.
worst part is there's outdoor plumbing, but I'm stuck inside.
Right.
So it's just adding insult to injury there.
Now that's really interesting. So now the outdoor plumbing, you don't have access to the outdoor plumbing, right?
No,
That okay, but you know it's there.
exactly. I'm just
So
painfully aware that it's sitting right outside
right.
of
So
my
this
grasp.
is this was part of the experiment. Like this is almost taunting you. Am I
Mhm.
right? Knowing
Yes.
knowing the plumbing's outside. Now I understand the background that we're looking at. This isn't actually what it looks like in the area that you're residing in right now, right? Because I'm going to presume that this could very well be waste byproducts from almost a year of being in there. that's behind you, but this is actually an image of the ocean. I just want to make sure.
Yes.
So for the
Yes,
audience,
I had to censor the background for several legal reasons. So
right?
this was the only image that could really mask everything that's going on behind me, which is honestly terrifying.
Yeah, yeah,
Completely,
no,
completely terrifying.
right. No, and I can imagine that. So, like, if I was your father, okay, I'm not saying
Mhm.
I am, but if I was, it'd be kind of horrible of me to not try to intervene, knowing you're trapped in this thing for at least a year right now, or is it 2 years? I almost forgot.
Two
Uh,
2 years.
oh, so it's been okay, right?
Mhm.
That's right. It was a year in that you realized you were getting monopoly money. Okay, so you've been in there for 2 years. The fact, if I was your father and I didn't intervene and try to get you out, people would probably wonder what kind of a father I am. I
Well,
mean, I wonder
sure.
that myself. I mean, it's a legitimate question, certainly, that
Yeah.
anyone could ask.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So did your father, and I'm not saying it's me, but let me just ask for the audience, did your father ask about you and try to get you out, knowing that you were not getting money for this? You were just in this
Not
for
not to
good.
my knowledge. No.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually very surprising. I'm
Yeah.
I'm a little
Imagine how I
surprised.
felt.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Now, if I was your father, I think I should be surprised at myself about this. So,
Well, it doesn't really make much of a difference because at this point I just accept that I have no father.
oh wow. Well, it's a
Yeah.
good thing that I'm not your
Oh,
father, because
definitely. I
I would
mean,
that would probably be hurtful to
that
me.
would,
Probably be a little
yeah.
hurtful to me.
I mean, if we're comparing the hurtfulness of that to, being abandoned in a room, isolated
Yeah,
room for 2 years, I think,
right.
the ratio is kind of,
Yeah. I
mm,
would totally agree with you. So let me ask you something. They gave you food, but it was only enough food to last for 13 months, knowing you were going to be in there. I think the full experiment is 2.5 years, right? So you went in knowing you were going to have 13 months of food for
mhm.
one individual. Okay. I think you also knew about the plumbing. I think you did, but I'll let you elaborate on that a little bit. So go ahead.
Well, the food, it's not legally food. So there's a little bit of, they went through some loopholes with that thing. And of course, yeah, the outdoor I was told there was going to be plumbing. They did not specify if it was going to be outdoor or indoor. Granted, I didn't really think that's something I needed to ask about. I kind of assumed it would be indoor plumbing that I'd have access to. But it was later obvious and specified. Actually, a few minutes before I entered the room, they told me that it was outdoor plumbing. I think they thought that perhaps I would turn away from the experiment if I were to know that I would not have access to a toilet, which, I understand that. So I don't completely blame them for revealing that information to me last minute.
Right.
It totally makes sense within the rules of the experiment. So
No, totally understand. So I'm not going to get into the gory details of not having indoor plumbing, at least not yet. I'll probably wait for a few minutes into this discussion if I decide to. Because I'm really not sure if I have the stomach for it. I had a very, very large lunch and I'm still digesting it. And I just don't know. And I have a weak stomach, so I'm not really sure how this
mm,
is going to go. So let's talk about the food, though. Understanding it was, what did I say, 18 months, 16 months, whatever the supply was, a year and a half, something like that.
13
So,
months.
okay,
13 months,
13.
yeah.
Okay. So if you don't mind describing the food, because, okay, actually for the audience, let me give a little bit more detail. And correct me if I'm wrong, my other understanding is you don't have a refrigerator or freezer. So the food that they had to give you had to be non-perishable. So, and it had to last this period of time. And remember, folks, we're in a 300 square foot room. Okay, so imagine a year and a half, or year, what'd you say, 13 months of food, and it's non-perishable. So
Well, you
what is it?
see that the loophole they got around that with
Right.
is that the food technically was non-perishable because it already perished. It came
Oh
pre-perished
wow.
when they provided it to me. Yeah. So
Wow, wow. Now, you mean beyond its expiration date, or you like these were dead carcasses or something? I mean, when you say
the
perished,
food
I'm
was synthesized to be expired. It
oh,
was
so,
created
well,
expired.
no, really. They
Yes.
put you okay, folks. Okay, let me get this straight. They put you in a room with intentionally expired food, knowing you were going to be trapped in there. I mean, this is almost like as bad as the plumbing, right? Knowing the plumbing's outdoors that you have no access to, giving you food, knowing it already expired and was perishable, and if you ate it, it would obviously make you extremely sick or kill you. And that's
Mhm.
what they gave you,
Yes.
and put you in a room with no doors, no windows, no access to plumbing, taunting you with the food that you can't eat, taunting you with the outside plumbing that you couldn't use. Then,
That's yeah.
halfway through this, taunting you with the fact that you're not getting paid real money, but monopoly money.
That's
This is
pretty much the
shocking.
long and short of it. Yeah,
Shocking.
that's
Okay, so the first thing, I mean, I'm laughing, but inside I'm crying, especially if you were my son. I'm not saying you are, but if you were, because I'm feeling a little bad about it. I mean, not really bad, because I have a feeling if you were my son, you probably have a very strained relationship. Otherwise, I probably would have reached out to you. Again, not saying that you are my son. I just don't want to give it away. So you look pretty good considering. I mean, the beard's a little overdone, but I mean, you look a little worn. I mean, you look kind of clean. I mean, not completely clean. It looks like you could use a bath or something. But I'm surprised at how well you actually do look. So,
well, thank you.
I mean, and
I'm
you're welcome.
flattered.
So, you don't have to give me the gory details, but how, without plumbing, and please, again, there's some young folks in the audience, so I want to be careful.
Of course.
How, and also me, again, I'm still digesting lunch. How are you keeping clean? Hey, please
Oof.
keep it high level, okay? I just don't need too many details, but just give us the essence of how
It's a
you're
very
keeping clean without indoor plumbing.
it's a layered answer, literally and figuratively. Um, it's sort of about using what I have provided to me to sort of protect against what else is provided to me, cleverly layering my body with certain things that would cause less damage than other things getting access to my skin. So a lot of it was trial and error, sort of caking myself with different materials, different kinds of food that they provided to me, and some of those trials and errors resulted in,
Wait,
rashes and
okay, wait, hold
oh
on a
yeah.
second. I've got to stop you. I apologize for cutting you off, but
Oh, no
are
worries.
you saying that you were using the perished food, the expired food, as a means of cleaning yourself? This was like
Yes.
you were using it for hygiene purposes. You're
Yes.
actually like washing yourself with the food, the expired food. Is that what you're
No,
saying?
it's more like protecting myself, understanding that I would be exposing myself to certain molds and bacteria to protect myself from worse molds and bacteria.
So that is actually very clever. And but like looking at you, I understand also. I mean, you didn't get cloths, you didn't get any washcloths or handy wipes or anything like that. Knowing that you're using this expired food, and I have no idea what it looks like, but it's amazing to me as I think about this. Your skin still looks so clean. So I'm
Well,
just wondering how
just all
what are you
right.
doing to do that?
So I'm not, I'm not super proud to admit this, but what you're seeing on me right now, what appears to look like skin, is not 100% accurately skin. You
Okay,
see, if you notice my pale complexion,
yeah.
it's actually a combination of skin and mold. So,
Oh, okay.
a white thin layer of
Wow.
mold.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and
Yeah.
I definitely do notice you are extremely pale, but I wasn't surprised being trapped in this place with no windows and doors
Oh, sure.
for 2 years. But I mean, the mold, see, I mean, for me at least, my experience with mold has always been something darker. maybe like in blue cheese, blue mold. I've seen there was green
No,
molds and
this is
all
the
different
type of
colors.
a type of white mold that you
Okay.
see on certain foods and
Oh,
sometimes human
okay.
beings when they're exposed to such elements.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So it's almost like the mold has begun to protect your skin almost from worse mold or worse
Yes,
diseases.
exactly. That's the idea.
Okay. See, I'm wondering, was this part of their plan to see what would happen with somebody not only isolated from the general public, taken away from food and indoor plumbing, and really just seeing what happens to this individual?
I
I
mean,
mean, that's what I'm just wondering if that's what they had in mind when they were doing this.
at this point, your guess is as good as mine because I was never really told the goals of the experiment
Okay.
or anything of that matter. I think they were afraid it would interfere with the results if I knew why
Okay.
this was being done to me, you know?
Okay. So now what I'd like to do, because I think we've really delved into this enough and it's kind of sad. So I want to distract you a little bit from the horror that you're obviously living right now. At least it seems like it's a horror to me. I don't think I would have survived
Yes.
as long as you. So I understand you obviously have access to the internet so that we're able to do this little Zoom that we're doing right now. You also are an animator, I understand. You do it privately and you do have a couple of sponsorships. I can't say who's sponsoring you without violating at least 14 international treaties, but you are doing some animation.
Mhm.
From what I understand, okay, and don't take this personally, most of it's horrible, but I mean, you probably already knew that. But I mean, there's like, I've seen all of it. I would say 90% is horrible. I'd say 5% is okay, and the other 5% is just incredible, which is confounding to me as I think about it, because it's like, how did you produce 5% absolutely incredible work, but the best is either mediocre or horrible? And this has really nothing to do with anything, but I'm just wondering. So something's inspiring you for the 5%. That's amazing, and then the rest is crap. So what? What gets you there? That 5% is great, and then everything else is like yuck.
Well, I like to think of it as that perfect moment where the toxic fumes from my environment
Right.
combine with my already weakened mental state
Right.
from being trapped in there so
Okay.
long, kind of mixed together in this perfect concoction of inspiration. And that, so it's almost like when I'm furthest away from being there is when I find that perfect twilight moment where I can truly create something that's beautiful. And then, the rest of the time where I'm painfully aware of my situation of where I am is when I create my worst work.
Okay. Okay. So that would certainly explain like what's been happening the last 2 years. But my review of your work was really based on the last 10 years prior to you even being in this situation right now. So
Mm.
how do you explain prior to actually being trapped in this room for 2 years? How do you explain the bad work before then? That's
An
what I'd
excellent
like to know.
question.
Yeah.
I just chalk it up to absolute mediocrity.
I mean, it's a great excuse when you say it like that, but I mean, really. So you just like
It could be
okay with
many
it?
things. It could be genetic. It could be environmental. It could be.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many factors that
Right.
contribute to modern mediocrity.
Now hold on a second. If you don't mind me stopping you again,
Oh, sure, yeah.
when you say genetic, are
Mhm.
you referring to parental units, fathers, mothers, things like that? Specifically fathers. When you say that it's genetic, I just want
Well,
again, folks. I'm not saying I am his son, and I'm not. We haven't disclosed that, but I kind of feel, and let me think about this. I kind of feel like you might be saying that you may have inherited these traits, the traits of mediocrity from a parent, whether it's a father or a mother. So if you have inherited these traits, would you say it was from the father, or would you say it's from the mother? I mean, more likely it's the mother, right? I mean, there's no way it's the father, correct?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on how you define mediocrity. If you think
I mean, crap work,
abandoning someone, if you think
crap work.
letting someone live in a room for 2 years in a
Okay,
horrible freak experiment
right.
is mediocrity, then sure, I could say it
No, no,
came
no.
from the father.
I'm not talking about the living conditions. I'm talking about the crap work you produce. I mean, that's
Yeah, but
really
all
what I'm
I'm
getting
I'm
at.
saying is that if you think that the personality of someone who would let their son live in such a horrible experiment, if you're saying that person has the characteristic of being mediocre,
Right.
then yes, then perhaps that characteristic can be transferred
Okay.
and result in perhaps bad artwork.
Well, what if the father, and just listen, hear me out for a second. What if
I'm
the father,
listening.
what if the father thought that the child was very difficult and thought that this might be an
Mm,
excellent lesson in adulthood to kind of say, hey,
mm.
I'm going to put you in a place for a couple of years and see what happens. Well, I mean, it wasn't me. I'm saying whoever did it, but I didn't intervene. I mean, not me. I mean, the person, whoever is your father, didn't intervene. Maybe they felt like this was going to be good for you.
Perhaps, but
Whoever your father is, if they felt that maybe this was something that would be helpful in the long run,
I
how
mean,
would that make you feel?
mediocrity can still have good intentions, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
perhaps, and perhaps that's how I approach my art, with good intentions, but still
Right.
resulting in horrifying results.
Right.
So you
Well,
could still say
okay.
that those characteristics are similar, that the father and son both had good intentions,
Right.
but both
So,
situations led to, horrifying results.
okay. Now again, the mediocrity thing. This is my opinion, and probably at least 2 to 3 million people that have been surveyed. I'm not saying it's a lot of people. I mean, it's a nice survey.
Mhm.
Still, in the scheme of things, for global population, it's a small sample size. So, 2 to 3 million people, and maybe myself as well, yeah, definitely, feel that your work is most of it's subpar, and maybe a
Mhm.
small percentage is good. So, how do you feel about your own work? Because I don't want to be the judge. I mean, maybe you have a totally different impression of your work. If you wouldn't mind giving your own opinion, that would be great.
I'd say that I agree with the, with what everyone is saying about it. I think that, and it makes sense to me, because the moments when I'm conscious, I hate my work, but when I'm sort of in that twilight state and I'm able to create those things, I sort of tap into something that's almost beyond myself.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
think that's the thing. When I'm the least myself, that's when I shine the most, because then
Okay.
I'm the furthest from my genetic inheritance.
Okay.
So,
Okay. We actually have a little chat room, so that's why I've been looking down. I've been fielding a couple of questions. Would you
oh, okay.
mind if I took a question? It's not audio. I'm just going to read it from somebody that's
Sure.
obviously tuned in.
Yeah, go for
Okay.
it.
All right. So basically, well, I don't want to. Okay, fine. I'll read this one. They're okay. So I'll just read it verbatim. So they don't know your name, so they're saying son or younger guy, because I guess I'm the older guy since I'm bald. I don't know. Yeah, okay, younger guy. I feel like this might be your father, and I don't understand how you can still have a relationship with him, knowing that he has allowed you to stay in this room for so long and not seem to care. And then, okay, this is a long one. And then all of a sudden decide that he wants to have a Zoom with you, share it with the world, and let him know what a horrible father he is. Because I know that the guy is saying he may or may not be your father, but it's pretty obvious he's your father. Okay, listen, I
Mm.
read it. I mean, I didn't want to as I was going through it. I realized it was derogatory to me, and I really have not said whether or not I'm your father. So how do you respond? Oh, and this was from a guy named Bill. I have no idea if that's his real name, but that's what he put at the end. So how do you respond to Bill with that question? I mean, I know what I'm going to say, but
Well,
how do you
Bill,
respond? Go ahead.
you know, I I don't know if you think that this one Zoom call implies any sort of relationship, but I wouldn't say it's really a relationship. I would say it's more of being trapped in a room for 2 years without talking to anybody, and suddenly this is the only person I'm able to talk to. And I took that opportunity to sort of, you know, perhaps cry for help or anything. And, this person who may or may not be my father happens to be there conversing with me. But yeah, so to that, I would say I wouldn't really call it a relationship.
So are you saying this is your first interaction with anybody in the last 2 years that you've been in this room? Is talking to me? No one else has communicated with you at all through this kind of a Zoom type of setting?
If you define other people by actual physical people and not, manifestations in my mind, then yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now I did not know that that was happening. Okay. I mean, I,
No.
well, okay. So listen, I mean, me reaching out to you, this is all about a first episode of a show that I hope will one day become popular and I'll make a tremendous amount of money. I mean, this really wasn't, I mean, I feel bad, but it really wasn't about caring about you being in this room. This was more about an opportunity for me because I'm fairly selfish. I mean, that's how I feel, at least about myself, that I really don't, I care about very little. I don't even care
Mm,
about myself. That's how little I care about. I
mm,
mean, I care about eating, unfortunately. That's why, yeah, I do like food. Okay.
who
And
doesn't?
watching myself though.
I'd
I
love some
mean,
food right now, some
yeah.
real food, some
Yeah,
actual food that's unperished.
I had a, I mean, I don't want to rub this in. I had a very big lunch right before. It was,
Oh,
I mean, it was a good lunch. I mean, listen, I feel bad. I feel bad about what you're going through, but I mean, I was hungry and I'm going to eat. And now, after we do this, and I mean, realizing you really have not had access to food for almost 2 years, which I don't understand how you're even surviving, but I'm going to eat after this. And am I going to feel bad? Probably not. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, it is. Especially the thing is, if you like, let's say you were my son, and I'm not saying you are, but if you were, I mean, most people would think that's a horrible thing for a father to kind of be that way. But they
yeah,
don't fully understand the relationship. Not that I do, because again, I'm not saying that we have this father-son relationship. Okay.
right.
Anyway, so I'm going to take another message I just got. Actually, they are coming in fast and furious. It's amazing. Am I, by the way, am I allowed to say that without like copyright infringement for the whole
Probably not.
franchise? Probably.
Probably not.
Okay. All right. Well, whatever.
Mm,
Okay. Oh yeah, this person put their name at the beginning. So this is a question from Jen. I don't know who Jen is. Jen in Wisconsin. That's all it says. And I have no idea if that's her first name, and that's truly where she's from. Oh, okay. All right. Well, this is interesting. So she said, well, first a statement. So she thinks that you're somehow she knows your animation, uh, even though maybe from your picture or something, even though we haven't put your name out here. She says that she thinks your animation is great. She thinks like 95% is actually excellent, and the other 5% is amazing. So this is obviously an anomaly. I'm just adding my words right now. So her question is, oh, okay. So this is a legitimate question. When will you be released from the 300 square foot room? Okay, good question. I was going to get to it, but Jen has asked it. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I haven't really been told when I'm going to be released. I thought it was only going to be a 2.5 year experiment, but something tells me that it's going to go on a little bit longer, perhaps forever. Not really sure, but I
Okay.
appreciate your love of my art. I appreciate any kind of positive reinforcement after what I've been through, what I'm continuing to go through, and may go through forever. So thank you. I appreciate it.
So okay, so you don't think you're going to ever be released? I mean, they haven't said like after a certain period of time. They haven't given you an end date to this
It's
experiment?
very possible. And I mean, I feel like I've already been deceived in many ways. So even if
They
they
haven't
did
reached
tell
out to
me,
you? Okay, okay, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but they haven't reached out to you at all to
it's
say,
very
okay, you're halfway
difficult.
through, you're three quarters through.
I mean, the room has no windows or doors. It's
Yeah,
really
I know, but
hard to
you have,
sort of,
okay, okay, I know that. Okay, and you don't have to rub it in and make us feel bad. Okay, it doesn't have rooms and doors. Okay, whatever, or windows and doors. But you have access, obviously, to the internet, so you can't email them or call. Maybe your cell phone doesn't work. I have no ideas. Through Skype or some other means, you can't reach out to them and say, "Hey, what's going on? When am I getting out?" You haven't done that at all.
for obvious reasons, they haven't provided me with any sort of phone number or email address or screen name. So
And no one's literally checked on you at all to see how you're doing.
no, no, not really, no.
And you seem almost okay with that. This is what's shocking to me. I mean, this is, folks, just so you all remember from the beginning, this is, he went in this pre-pandemic, right before anything even happened, willingly. I mean, I realized he was going to be paid money, which we all know has turned into monopoly money, but willingly walked into this, and you just seem okay with it. Is it that you've gotten used to it?
Well, some might even argue that the parts of my brain that are able to process pain, sorrow, regret have maybe become fried from overuse. And I'm sort of in this state where I'm left with all the other emotions that are there.
Okay, okay. Hey, hold on one second. We just obviously nothing is free in life, and we have a couple of sponsors. So I just
Of course.
basically we're about halfway through, or maybe we're almost done. I'm really not sure yet because I'm not sure what else I want to ask you. So today's sponsors are, and please don't take this the wrong way, sir. Soap and food. Our sponsors today are soap and food. I mean, it's generic, I realize, but nobody really wanted to give their company brand or logo. So all the best I can do is say soap and food. And I'm not saying
Sounds like
that,
more of a PSA than a
yeah.
sponsorship.
And I'm not saying it to rub it in because I know you have access to neither one, but
I
I'm
mean, I
just
wish I
saying,
could rub it in.
yeah.
I wish I had soap to
Oh,
rub
the
in,
soap,
but
yeah. Well, you have no water, so I don't know what that's going to do for you, except probably cause your skin to get irritated. I
fair
guess I have
point,
no
fair
idea.
point.
Yeah. Okay, so getting on a completely different subject. Oh, okay. I've always thought about this. You're besides animation, you also compose music. You sing and you compose music. And I'm really curious about that process. So you have no formal music training. In fact, from what I've heard, when you were younger, you couldn't sing at all. You had a horrible voice, couldn't carry a tune. So now, I mean, I'm not saying you've gotten better. I'm just pointing it out that so now you compose music, you have no skills playing any instrument. I mean, you weren't formally trained or anything like that. You can't read music, but yet you put music together. You don't really play any instruments, but yet you put these instruments together with various programs. And I'm wondering how that process works for somebody that can't carry a tune, has no formal music training or anything. How do you do it? How do you put
Well,
something together so that it sounds halfway decent
you
without any of
see,
that?
that's a great question. That's sort of the beauty of this country. A lot of people believe they can do things that they couldn't and probably
Right.
shouldn't do, but they
Okay.
do them anyway,
Okay.
and they get far in life. And sort of, I feel like I'm lucky to be here because we do promote mediocrity here,
Okay.
and so that's something that I sort of live by. Is just because I'm bad at something doesn't mean I can't do it, even if I really shouldn't do it. Even if probably a lot of people are worse for hearing what I've made, I'm still okay. It's still okay to do it because that's what this country is about, right?
Well, probably not, but I mean, I guess you're entitled to your opinion, and you have been stuck in a 300 square foot room for 2 years. So, I mean, it's your opinion. Not saying I agree with it because I probably don't, but yeah, sure,
That's
whatever.
fair.
Okay. And how about my understanding also, again, just through reading things online, not because I have personal experience with your own life experience, but I heard that you spent about 15 years in art school that was supposed to really last 4 years, but you, for various reasons, kept failing classes or just staying. You weren't even technically enrolled for at least 2 to 3 years. And then people didn't know what happened to you. Then you came back and you took up a class again, but never finished it, walked away. The teachers were getting aggravated, but they felt bad for you. So they let you stay for 12 years. I mean, literally, it took you 12 years of art school that should have taken you 4. You finally get out. From my understanding, you had enormous debt that you're still paying off to this day. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands. I mean, it could be the debt of a small country if you want to be honest, right? From what I've heard. And
Yes.
and we haven't really talked much about it or at all about it, frankly. So what made you persist? I mean, we're talking 12 years, knowing you were mounting enormous debt, knowing the likelihood of you using this experience for anything at all, beyond making maybe drawings and greeting cards if you were lucky. I mean, for what? What was motivating you to keep going in the art school?
You know, it's funny because growing up, I heard a story of someone who was desperate for money, and they actually participated in an experiment very similar to the one that I'm currently participating in.
Okay.
And I think that ironically drove me to persist and to try to make something of myself so that I could perhaps avoid a situation such as this. And of course, tragically, it didn't work. I ended up here
Right.
anyway. But
Right. Right.
I think that I just was hoping that maybe I'd be a little bit better than this and that I wouldn't have to, you know, settle for a situation like this.
Okay.
But it happened
Okay.
anyway. And you
Right.
know what? That's okay, even though
Okay.
it isn't.
So what compels you every day in your present situation to move forward? What are you thinking about? What is your long-term goal and vision in life, given your present situation?
Well, when you're in a situation like this, instead of big goals, it has to be small goals, hoping that the mold and perished food will cake me from the harmful bacteria during the night, you know, uh, hoping that I won't get sick from the perished food, uh, things like that, hoping that my night terrors will be slightly less terrible in the night. So just little things, tiny things each day like that, that kind of not necessarily push me, but pull me along, almost like dragging me along this bumpy, dirty, moldy floor day by day, one excruciating millisecond at a time.
Yeah. I mean, when you describe it that way, it doesn't sound so bad. I mean, to me, it's
Exactly. It's
yeah,
it's not, yeah, it's really
doesn't seem
nothing.
so bad. Okay, well, I'm just looking at the time. I mean, it's I've taken a lot of your time. I mean, I know for you it probably doesn't matter because you're trapped in this place.
Yeah,
But honestly, I'm getting kind of tired and bored of it because it's just. I mean, to
fair.
me, it was a little interesting. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but you do look okay, by the way, and it is good to finally see you after so long.
Well,
So
thank you.
yeah,
It's definitely been an experience seeing
yeah.
you after so long.
Yeah, it's been a while. All right. Well, I'm going to close this. So ladies and gentlemen, friends, neighbors, whoever you are, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. It's been a lot of fun. And I mean, listen, if anyone wants to send this guy over here some money, I guess, to help him out, not that he could spend it anytime soon, feel free to do that. And until then, we'll maybe have a show again. Maybe we won't. This could be an epic failure or a great success. I really don't know. But until then, I'm going to sign off and leave it at that. So let me go ahead and stop this right now.
Sun.